So now we back in the thick of it still, number 10. And on this journey of losing two children, I had to find growth at some point because the addiction, the alcohol, and everything else would have just kept me suppressed. And it stayed a while because year 8, 9, 10 of celebrating them and going through that, it was hard to know that you have two little babies that you had that you can't experience that 6 year old, that 7 year old, that 8 year old. And this is for two different children that was here. You know, I have them in my house on my mantle. I have a mantle for them. So I always keep them a part of my journey. But it was hard, and it was even harder coming out of addiction because it didn't happen till like year 13. Now I'm on year 18 celebrating, you know, my growth, my strength, my fight. That's how I managed to get my son through high school. And now he's moving on and growing in his life. And I got another kid that's currently in high school. Without me seeing the light of what I was going through, it would have left me in a depression. And I would have never been able to grow the way I needed to grow for my children. But I had to grow for me too because God had a bigger plan for me. And had I stayed in that pain, I would have never became the mother, the friend, and the person that I am today. And it was a lot of my mindset that I had to change because at some point of that journey, everything was everybody's fault. God wasn't on my side. Nobody loved me. Everything was everybody else's fault. And sometimes we place blame. There's no blame in your story. Nobody's to blame. That's why it's your story and your testimony because you can go through it, live through it, and come out on the other side. But I didn't have the support that I needed. It didn't look like what I needed it to look like. And that's just because people didn't know how to deal with somebody that was in my predicament. And I completely understand that now. That's why forgiveness was a great deal of what I had to seek. Forgiveness for other people and forgiveness from myself. Forgiveness from other people because they're not calling me and they're not remembering. Because after the casket closed, that's hard. But it's that alone and that what's going on, what's the next phases, what's the next steps, how will I make it through this? And I'm not fully healed. I'm still growing, but I'm learning every day to do it different, to choose me because I want to live. I don't want to give up. I didn't want to give up. It was a point where I wanted to give up, but I had to find the fight and the love. Now, a lot of times I called on my sister because she's my anchor, she's my rock. I called on her a lot. And you know, sometimes you don't want to burden people with what you're going through, but she's so kind and understanding. If you know her, you know her. And that was where a lot of my anger and my frustration, and I know she's seen the pain that I was going through. And sometimes I know my pain was hurting other people, but they didn't know how to deal with it, how to talk to me, how to comfort me. You find a purpose. Finding a purpose is key to knowing your strength and why you had to be so strong. Because I had to really sit down with myself and think. You know how many people before you had to go through this hardship? And not just hardship, but how much people had to go through this pain of losing children, like because they were essayed by the people back then. I'm talking like 1930s, 1940s, when they was going through what they was going through. It was hard. But a lot of them fought because they had to fight for themselves, their families, their children. And it's not going to be easy. But anything worth fighting for, which is your life, is worth going through. Because on the other side, there is a greater cause, there is a greater purpose, and you instill in yourself and your children and the people around you to keep going. The easiest thing we can do sometimes is give up, and it's not going to look pretty because where I was some days, I couldn't show up for nobody. I just did the best I could. In what you're going through, right? Journal. Speak to who you feel comfortable speaking to. Because there's something on the other side of that battle. Them stripes that you got to carry, it's going to be for a reason. I completely understand nothing happens by accident. And learn to walk in your truth because speaking your truth is not only healing for you, but it will be healing for somebody else. You never know who needs words of encouragement to keep going and look for the greatest outcome that can come out of your situation. I just hope this really reaches somebody. And no matter what you're going through, whatever it looks like, grow through it because that's not the end. Come back for how I get through having all three children and moving to Pennsylvania. That's a new journey.